Hello, my name's Helen Tovey. I'm editor of Family Tree, and today I'm going to be talking to Sarah Wise, and she's going to be speaking at the forthcoming Secret Lives conference about London's worst Victorian slum. So it's got to be a pretty bad area to live in. So what first got you into this sinister, dark side of history?
Well, we simply took a wrong turning off the Bethnal Green Road one lovely summer late afternoon in 1995. We were stuck in a traffic jam. I said, throw a right, see where that goes. And we drove up into the most beautiful estates, and I saw a street sign saying Old Nickel Street, and I thought, well, this can't be that notorious Old Nickel slum that I read about in all those Jack the Ripper paperbacks. Something's happened here. There's a story here. So I was doing a master's in Victorian studies at the time, and I thought, well, that might make a nice dissertation. How did this terrible area get turned into this glorious council estate? It turns out it was London's first planned council estate. And so that's how I first discovered the Old Nickel slum. And then I just thought, well, hang on a minute, it had such a terrible reputation. Could it really have been as bad as people said? You know, is there a myth there to be busted? And that's essentially what the book turned out to be. My investigations into how it got such a bad reputation and whether there was any truth in it at all.
And did you start off with the census and build up a picture of the inhabitants?
I didn't actually. I worked entirely the other way round. I have a very the way I work, I mean, I can't say whether it's a good or bad way, but it's my way that I just seem to have established through practice. I throw a really wide net, and I'll look at absolutely any material, and so I go searching to find sources of material. So the upshot is that the most important thing that I did was I read 10 years worth of the local newspaper that covered that area. It came out twice a week. It took a very long time. I did it on microfilm at the Tower Hamlets Local Studies Library. Absolutely. It still hasn't been digitised, actually. I don't think it ever will be. So I read the local newspaper. I worked my way through the London Metropolitan Archives, all sorts of holdings to do with crime, policing, schools, because there were 3 primary schools in the slum. And then I read widely everything I could about people who had gone into the slum to try to help out the poor. And there were a few sort of personal testimonies, such as the local school board inspector, various Sunday school teachers, 2 vicars who wrote an awful lot about their work there. And so I read as much testimony as I possibly could. And then I started to go into actual people. So I did it that way round.
You built up a picture of the streets and the environment, and then you kind of populated it with the people at the end.
That's absolutely right. I mean, very frustrating, because although there were much higher literacy rates than you might imagine, people who were that poor didn't tend to sort of take a pen and paper, which would cost money, and write, this is what I think about being poor. So their actual testimony is very hard to find, and I only found one written piece of evidence from a slum dweller. But Raphael Samuel in the late 1960s, early 1970s did a very long oral history project with a man in his 80s who'd been born there in 1886, and so he remembered his first 10 years of life in the slum. And so we get fantastic testimony from that oral history source, which was either backed up or actually contradicted quite a lot of the written source. So it was like a kind of jigsaw I was placing together, knowing that there were lots of parts missing, but still nevertheless a slightly faded picture is better than no picture at all.
And you said at the beginning you were hoping to bust a myth.
Yes.
So was it more complex than you first imagined?
Absolutely it was. I mean, for a start, 40% of people, of the 5,700 people living in the Old Nickel slum, were under the age of 15. So we're talking a much younger demographic than we might normally think. Additionally, there were lots and lots of pensioners living there, because another reason why you end up living in a very poor area because the rents are so cheap is because you become old. And remember, these are the years before old age pensions. And so there were lots of pensioners. So you've actually got a comparatively small active adult population. What you had, and I'm sorry if this sounds prejudiced, is you have a number of tearaway boys and young men out and about, because their homes were so horrible, out and about on the streets, being rowdy, maybe being a bit loutish. And so the place looked bad, and maybe it didn't sound too great. But in fact, the crimes that went on there were completely typical for any any poor part of London.
And most people were just getting on with their lives and not...
That's not... Yeah, exactly, but that's not news. Nobody wants to know about the hard-working pensioner or the single mum struggling to bring up her kids. Nobody cares about them. All they want is the headline figure of, that young tearaway and there was a stabbing a few streets over. So no, I have to say, in the words of one of the vicars, he said, I'm astonished when you consider the conditions these people have to live in, how very moral and upright they are.
That's quite a testament to our ancestors, isn't
Absolutely
it?
right, yes. Yeah, definitely.
Well, that sounds fascinating. And what else are you looking forward to over the weekend?
Well, what's great about these kind of events is you sit all alone quietly in a library or an archive, or all alone quietly at home writing up your research, and you don't get to talk to, your reader becomes this imaginary person. So it's great to meet the public, because the questions they fire at you from the floor make you think, I hadn't thought of looking at it from that point of view at all. So actually, it's meeting Joe and Josephine Public, and actually it's mixing with other local historians who are working at the coalface and getting tips and hints from them and seeing what else everybody's up to. So yeah, it's a really nice convivial get-together these days.
Good. Thank you very much, then.
Thank
Lovely.
you.